Welcome to another episode of the State of the Bulldogs, one we did not expect to be recording. We got the quad box, Jeb, Mike, Grant. Boys, we're not quite dancing, but we're still playing. Samford to the NIT, couldn't be happier. I mean, if everybody listened to the episode we dropped on Monday, we were quite surprised that this was even an option. So thank you to all of the Power 4 teams that rejected their invitation, because we are very grateful to be able to watch this Samford squad one more time, at least against George Mason, a March Madness darling when we were growing up, guys. They haven't made the tournament in quite some time, but still cool to be playing such a storied team in our debut of the NIT. But first, guys, reactions. Grant, Mike, Jeb. Grant, we'll start with you. Initial reaction to the NIT, and then subsequent reaction once you were like, all right, we got one more game. How do we feel?
My first thought was we need to get these guys off the beach right now. We had Rylan down at 38 basically. It's like, guys, come on, we need to get up, play some basketball. Sources did tell me that Rylan got some shots up on Sunday, so he felt good after his beach trip. Yeah, it's pretty shocking, going back and forth, like you said, the opt-outs, and you have to go back into the mass. Since NIT changed the whole selection process with the new tournament called the Crown that Fox is putting on. Very confusing, very dumb. We don't need to get into any of that. So basically, you go through all the metrics and you average those up, and they have a list of teams that you go through to say, okay, here's the teams that are eligible for the tournament. You just go down the list. SEC obviously had 14 teams, the big dance. South Carolina, LSU said, no, we're good, we're fine, we can opt out. So you just go down the list basically, and Samford's metrics were good enough right behind Chad to get in. So yeah, just cool to see them actually play basketball one more time.
You gotta love that we're kind of spoiling Chattanooga's party, because it used to be the consolation prize of not necessarily winning the tournament but winning the conference was the NIT. It was special for the mid-major conference champions. And now Furman, unfortunately, and Samford are crashing the Mocs party. So kind of love that. Kind of love that. Mike, thoughts on the NIT and kind of how they've progressed since you found out?
Yeah, I love that we're playing another basketball game. Who knows what the NIT means anymore because of NIL and the transfer portal. All these schools are declining, whether because they've got players transferring or they're too good for the NIT, who knows. But we'll take it. We'll take that benefit, and just a great opportunity to watch our guys play one more game.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch them play again. It'd be cool to see how the George Mason matchup looks like. If we can get past them, maybe there's an actual real possibility they could go far in the NIT. But yeah, NIT, like I remember watching the NIT growing up, so like it's fun to actually see your team in there. I think North Carolina made it a couple times, so it was always like those off years where North Carolina didn't make it in, they made it in the NIT. So yeah, I'm excited to watch it. He's got a lot of history. It's a real tournament. It's not like the Crown, and so like it is somewhat like prestigious to be playing in it, even though it's not for a national championship.
100% agree. And something that the Crown will never have is the fact that the NIT was the original tournament. So no matter what, there will always be some level of prestige to win this thing. And then playing in a story, I mean, they're not in Madison Square Garden anymore, but Hinkle Fieldhouse, still a storied arena. Certainly the antithesis of the corporate America's dream world of Las Vegas. But guys, let's start with the bracket first, just to familiarize everybody, because I'm sure by this point it's Wednesday, it's game day, that everyone's filled out a March Madness bracket. But in terms of the NIT, we are in the upper quadrant with George Mason, and then North Alabama, a team we played earlier this season against Bradley. So if we were to get past George Mason, we would play at Bradley, and I think North Alabama would come to us if they were to win. But then look at the very top, Chattanooga, MTSU will battle for Tennessee. If there's a possibility, guys, that we would be playing UTC in the quarterfinals, which would be wild. Pretty sure that game would be
Part 4
at Samford. No, hard to say. Based on how they seeded it, I think it's. I'm honestly not sure.
Who really knows, to be honest? They kind of just make it up as they go. Like, if your arena doesn't have anything going on, you'll host it. But if you can't, it'll go to the other team. So it's basically just like the week of, okay, we'll figure it out once we get there.
Okay, that makes sense. But what I love about this field, and I want to hear y'all's thoughts, is how many familiar names there are from a mid-major standpoint. Obviously, Furman, unfortunately, but you got the Billikens of St. Louis, Wichita State Shockers, UNI, Loyola. So a lot of fun, St. Bonaventure, a lot of fun brands. And then sprinkle in 4 Power 4 teams who I don't think they're going to fare too well outside of possibly SMU. But Georgia Tech, SMU, Stanford, and who's the other one?
To that point, Georgia Tech's losing by 20 to Jacksonville State in the second half.
Well, so. There you go. There you go. It's like those teams are pretty just not good. But SMU's not too bad. So Oklahoma State, that was the other one. I don't think they're very good either. We'll see though.
Basically, they had to go down the Big 12. Okay, you didn't get in the tournament, you didn't get in the crown, and so it's like, okay, I guess we'll play.
Yeah. All right, guys. Jeb, we'll start with you. Thoughts on the bracket? Any fun teams that you would like to play? I mean, are we getting to the quarterfinals? Yeah. Is that even,
Well, you kind of set me up there because what I was going to say before we started looking at the bracket was if you look at the progression of our program from what it was, I think, Grant, you talked about this a couple episodes ago, where our program was several years ago, like to even just be in like the NIT, even though we didn't make the NCAA tournament and playing well in the SoCon tournament or the last half of the season. We're in like good company with mid-major programs, and I think that says a lot about how we should be proud of like where the program is and how it's progressed and how much like Bucky and his team and Newton have changed like the program at Samford. So like that's what I'm excited about looking at this bracket. It's like you're playing with like all of these like big boy mid majors, right? We got to play Kansas last year. That was cool. So it just says a lot about our program. I think Utah Valley. I think we played Utah Valley right earlier in the season. So that's an interesting matchup. Maybe in like the semifinals, if we could get there, it'd be cool. You talked about like Chattanooga being on our side. Be cool if like Loyola Chicago or some or like get a big matchup like Stanford somewhere. But I think George Mason's going to be a difficult matchup. I think we were talking about this before we got on, and if we can get past that, I think you have a chance. But George Mason's going to be difficult for this team. So
yeah, and we'll get into George Mason because it is a difficult matchup. For now, we'll pump all the sunshine and say we're going to get past this for the sake of looking at the bracket. But go ahead, Joe.
No, yeah, it's just like the bracket's fun. Like I like Utah Valley, I like Loyola. I like to see Bonaventure in there because they've had some cool moments in March. You look at the left-hand side of the bracket, UNI's had some fun moments. Wichita State used to be like almost like a mid-major powerhouse for us growing up. They haven't recently, but also UAB's in there, right? Another Birmingham school, so like it's kind of cool. Could maybe say UAB Samford in the NIT champion.
I was about to say I'm here for a little Alabama takeover in Indianapolis.
They won't play us in Birmingham, which is lame. We talked about that a lot on the podcast. So we always talk. Actually, I'm going to use this moment to talk about why we should do a UAB, Alabama, Auburn, Samford like tournament in Birmingham.
There's no better moment as we're staring in the face of 40 mid-major games.
I love how you fell into that too. It's like this is the point right here. Yeah, we got there. Yeah.
Well, I don't understand. Like you do like a tournament for all the Alabama schools. Everyone wants to say that Alabama's a basketball state now, which is not true because they haven't actually won any
Birmingham
national
Sports
championships.
Twitter likes to say that.
No, it's not true because you haven't won any national championships. Like you're good at.
Jeb, like, Alabama's already a bigger basketball state than North Carolina ever could dream of being.
That's false. Just go ahead and count all the titles in this state versus Alabama.
Do we have all night? I mean, shoot. Mike, thoughts on the bracket?
You touched on it, all of you guys, but talk about the March legends that are in this bracket.
Yes.
I mean, St. Bonaventure, Loyola Chicago, can't
Yeah.
stand that team because they beat Tennessee one year.
That's right.
San
Florida Atlantic.
Francisco, I believe San Francisco's coach last year is the current Florida coach.
Yep.
Can't
Todd Golden.
stand him either. Middle Tennessee and Chattanooga, obviously. Dayton and Florida Atlantic. Wichita State. I mean, pretty insane list here. So it's just cool, like Jeb said, to be in a tournament with all those names. And this.
Did you say you and I?
Didn't.
I said you and I.
No, Mike, you're right. Dude, you're spot on. It's wild.
It's insane. I mean, those are some big names in terms of mid-major basketball. So
yeah,
it's a position Samford would not have been in a couple of years ago. And, say what you will about the Crown and the people declining the invitation and stuff. It's still a prestigious tournament, and it's a tournament people are going to watch. It's going to be nationally televised. So it's just Samford getting to push their brand out there a little bit longer. In terms of the matchup with George Mason, it's going to be tough, dude. You got Jalen Haynes from he was at UTSU last year.
Yep.
So we know him well. He's a beast.
He's good.
Big boy, can score, can rebound. Absolute tank. 260 pounds.
Leads the team in scoring and doesn't shoot threes. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
Just dominates. I
mean, that's a grown man. Also, Katie Johnson, the longtime Auburn guard, who has to be like 30 years old by now. Did not realize he was still playing basketball.
He, in KD fashion, he led the A10 in technical fouls this year. So their technicals called on him, just pointing that out. He's still the same guy he was down at Auburn.
Yeah. Man, he was so annoying to watch.
This is his only fifth year. It's only his fifth year.
Yeah, I just feel like he was one of those guys that was at Auburn for like 5 years.
Yeah, it feels like they've been.
It seemed like he was around all the time.
Started at Georgia.
Yeah, those two guys alone, just being able to watch Samford play against those two guys would be fun.
They got. I mean, we can go ahead and get into George Mason. Grant, if there was anything else you wanted to add on the bracket.
Yeah, just one team we need to shout out. Northern Colorado, led by former Samford point guard Jaron Riley's had a really good year. He's turned into a really nice player after spending his first 2 years at Samford. Now he's at his fifth year in Northern Colorado. He's been, I don't know if he's been leading them in scoring, but he's been doing pretty well, especially playing well the last month or so. Yeah, just another team to shout out, a player.
Why did I think Jaron really went? Oh, I'm thinking of Graziani. I was like, I thought he went D2. I was thinking Graziani.
Yeah, Graziani's in the D2 quarters right now against playing Alabama Huntsville. So yeah, he's doing the same thing. Nova's a sick basketball program, doing the same thing he was before he came to Samford.
Great shout out, Grant. Great shout out. We really enjoyed Jaron Riley. All right, but let's get into George.
I'll say this: making those connections between former Samford players and other teams is like, it just shows you like how many connections Samford has like across other NCAA teams. It happens in football.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, football.
It happens in the NFL. Michael Pierce actually retired this past week, so just news there. But yeah,
he went out well.
Yeah, he did. All right, so George Mason, as Mike said, they got Jalen Haynes, who just dominates anywhere inside the arc, and then Darius Maddox, their other leading scorer, who is lethal or can be lethal from behind the arc, and then Braden O'Connor. Those are their three top scorers. Braden is much more of a three-point shooter than Darius, but Darius is a 6'5" guard who, I mean, it looks like he can do just about anything you want. So a dynamic duo between Darius and Jalen, that in and of itself is going to be tough for our squad to match up against. And then you sprinkle in Braden and then Katie Johnson. They definitely have the advantage at guard, which that's where we have succeeded, is when we have the advantage at guard. So right off the bat, does not bode well for us. Not saying that it's going to be an impossible feat. They're certainly beatable. But this George Mason team did win 26 games, which is crazy. Not a ton of impressive wins, but 26 games is remarkable nonetheless.
Especially when you go, according to Kemp, on their kind of depth chart right now, with Katie Johnson actually coming off the bench for them, and across their 5 starters, they go from 6'4" all the way 6'4" to 6'9". So 2 6'4" guys is the shortest. So yeah, when you got 2 big guys, Woody Newton's in there, played a lot of minutes, and then Haynes, like we mentioned, 6'8", 265 for Haynes right now, just doing work in the post. Yeah, they do have size, and then it's just a matter of, the kind of off court. We kind of talked about motivation between the two sides, just who wants to go out there and play well, and kind of that it kind of match up. If you read too much or read too little into that, it's just part of the whole factor when you factor it all in. But
they've got
Go ahead, Jeff.
They've got 4 guards that can shoot plus Haynes. So like, it's
it's scary.
So all right, so we
6'4".
can get right. So like we can get buckets in the paint, and we have 4 guys on the outside that can just like shoot almost 40%.
We do have the size advantage inside, but it's Haynes, so it's like, do you really?
Yeah.
Not to scare y'all too much, but another strike against the matchup for us is they play 7, 8, 9 guys, almost 9 guys, regularly.
Yeah.
So the war of attrition is not going to be as important because they're used to rotating so many bodies in and out of the game. So our press is not just going to have to be tiresome. It's going to have to be effective from a turnover standpoint if we want to have a legitimate shot of winning this one.
Like, here's another thing. Haynes' field goal percentage is 56%. Like,
Hack a Shack, baby. But 50. That's still 50. You said 57. That's not as bad as Filowich. Like, Filowich is hack a Shack all day because it's a guaranteed miss unless you're playing Samford. But 57, I take that back. Maybe not hack a Shack, but aggressive.
I mean, Riley's shot 57%. So
He never gets to the line.
yeah,
Like, I don't know what Riley's attempts are, but I would bet it's like 20.
you got to look at the attempts for sure.
Yeah.
But
yeah, Haynes 62% from the free throw line. He has attempted 16 threes. He has made 3 of those 16. But yeah,
It's not nothing.
Yeah, he was top 3 in the conference at defensive rebounding percentage, top 20 in the A10 in offensive rebounding. So again, just kind of crash the glass, which Samford has struggled against kind of bigger guards like this, which we all know and have watched over the last few years.
Their backup forward in Majuru, I don't know how you pronounce it. He's from England. And he's 6'11", 265. Did you ever talk about him?
oh,
And he's shooting 68% from the field, but only averaging 6.4 points per game. So he's going to come in off the bench and bully some guys. He's playing almost 20 minutes a game.
How big is he?
6'11",
265. That'll play.
Kristen?
So I mean,
I don't think our trap's going to do anything in this game. I don't think our full court press is going to do anything in this game.
but that's the thing about it. It's like we're not going to not do it.
The fact that our guys have been at 30A, probably partying for the last week.
So that's another interesting wrinkle to this, Mike. George Mason probably thinking that they're going to be playing in a postseason tournament. They haven't had any opt-outs that we know of.
And they just played on Sunday, too, so we can throw that in there.
Okay, that's a good point, Grant. So they had been fresh. They're still in season mode. Our guys have been off for a week and a half. And then we get a call when we're on spring break. Hey, let's get off the beach and back to the gym. That is a tough transition. Not saying that our guys can't overcome that.
That might,
but
it could be a positive.
That might work to your advantage, though. They might be loosened. Maybe they needed that the entire freaking season.
It's like the NBA All-Star break.
They come in and they can actually play together now.
Even watch a couple days off.
Even watching them later in the year, it's like, gosh, I kind of wish we had a Christmas break to kind of figure it out. This is the Christmas break they had to be okay. We kind of need to regroup, even though your mentality is different. Still, we're trying to find the positives. We're trying to backdoor our way into like, oh yes,
I feel
7.5 point dog. Who cares?
Well, okay. Well, here's the positive. Okay, they have a top 15 defense in the country, but if we can score 80 points, we'll win the game. We'll win the game. If we can score 80 points, we'll win the game.
Yeah, Sam, to your point, Samford's 12th nationally in scoring offense at 83 points per game. George Mason is 12th nationally in scoring defense, allowing just 63
It's the classic which one's going to give. Well, in postseason basketball, it's always the offense that gives, but we will buck that trend. If we're hot from three, boys, I mean, if Trey Fort comes out here and has a 20-point game, and Brownell finds himself again and he has a 20-point game, like there are opportunities for this team to pull out a win. But they are going to have to play one of the best games they've played all season. Because this is
Fort and Brownell have not had good games on the same
Yeah.
game the entire season. I don't know. Maybe today's the day.
Mike, you're right. Like, it's not. If I was a betting man, I'm not taking the dogs in this one. Everything feels stacked against us, which makes me think that it's
Yeah.
like not. Like when you start working your way around the circle of, well, if it really is all stacked, is it really? And then, maybe we are going to score a bunch of points that we haven't all season. It'll be a fun game, especially if we're hitting threes. We'll keep it tight, but
Yeah.
I do expect George Mason to win this one by at least 10 points.
Positive talk, then you come back. Yeah, we're losing by double digits. I was like,
yeah, I mean, I just don't like. You start going back through the matchups, and they're bigger, they're stronger, they're more consistent,
More dynamic.
they're older.
if we played them 10 times, they might win 9.
No, not that bad. It's not that bad, Grant. When we're on, we can win. That's what I'm saying, Mike. If we're on, we can win.
It's Samford basketball. It's Bucky basketball. It's Bucky ball. Like if we're playing and there's minutes left in the game, time's still on the clock.
They can do it.
Have some hope,
They can do it.
I think we're just going to get overwhelmed, and they have a more diverse offense than we do, and they can play better defense.
They do, yeah.
And so
they do have more ways to score.
It's just going to overwhelm us.
That is a big problem, Jeb. Is they have more than one or two guys that drive the ball consistently, and then obviously Haynes just beasts inside. So.
And something to point to, George Mason, according to Kid Palm, is 334th in the country in turnovers on offense. So maybe they do actually find a way, it doesn't matter.
Hey, there's the window.
Yeah, there you go.
You're all listening to this or 20 some odd minutes in, and you're like, why am I listening to this? Why am I even going to watch the game tonight? That's why, right there. That stat, Grant. We can hang our hat on that stat.
They're too tall to dribble the ball. Is that what you're saying, Grant? Their guards are too tall.
I like that.
Katie Johnson's a roller coaster. He'll give you at least 3 or 4. He's out of control. He doesn't know what to do. He's like Baker Mazzaro punching people.
Josh Holloway, Katie Johnson matchup.
Sounds
I cannot
electric.
wait to watch that.
It's gonna be good. I mean, that's the other thing.
Will
That's
there
the
be
other
double
thing,
technicals on both of them just because they're going back and forth at each other?
What's there to lose?
Yeah, that'd be great.
This team
I love
thought
that.
the season was over, right? So there's also this aspect of it that cuts the other way. This team thought the season was over. Rylan Jones, his basketball career is over. Getting emotional. He's like, that was the last one. Now I'm going to go be a coach, like my destiny. And then you have on the other side of that, Walls and Holloway, and to a lesser extent, Riley, of like, all right, we're now the juniors. Like, we are like the core of this team. Rests on the success of next year rests on our shoulders largely heading into the offseason. So they're hopefully gearing up for that. Hopefully they're not just partying like every other 20-year-old is down in spring break completely. And so that's somewhere in the back of their mind. And it's like, boom, one more opportunity to play. Hopefully the week and a half of all of those thoughts come together and create a little dynamite, and you get a special moment in the DC in Fairfax.
I think, I've never been a D1 athlete, hardly ever been an athlete at all,
Shocker.
but I would imagine that if I'm a sophomore or junior and I've got another season left, I'm not all that excited about this game. But I'm hoping they're competitors and
I don't
they
know,
just wanna
dude.
play basketball and they want to win.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you've been battling it out since October, November. You're exhausted.
Yeah.
You mentally just feel like, all right, season's over. I can relax for a couple weeks before we get back at it. And it's like, oh no, wait, we got to go back to practice. So if I'm one of the sophomores, I'm like, man, I'm exhausted right now. I need a break. If I'm a senior, I'm like, all right, here's my chance to play one more game, 2 more games, whatever.
Yeah, we just got 2 weeks off. That is the break.
Yeah, that is a nice little break.
Maybe
But
I'm
still,
just
I
lazy.
get your point, yeah.
And that's
Well,
why I
Mike-
never became a D1 athlete, because I'm lazy. So
Mike, the other thing is they also just saw all the seniors crying in the locker room, like this is it, hanging it up. So if nothing else, even if they want to, complain about having to play one more game, that at least is there where it's like, hey, my boy gets one more shot. Let's go ball out for him,
That's
So-
fair. I mean, I hope that's their reaction. Yeah, to get to be a D1 athlete, you've got to have some grit and some grind, and
Yeah, that's what
I'm
you
not
want.
worried about any of these guys not wanting to play. That's not a concern of mine. I think especially Lucas and Josh are foaming at the mouth to get back out there. It's just a matter of like, can they? Like can
Yeah.
they play well enough? That's the problem.
I
We'll
hope
see.
so.
The ceiling tells us yes, they can win the game.
It's the
The
roof.
floor tells us they can get destroyed in the game too. So regardless, it's going to be fun, and we get buckyball for one more time until I don't know November. But any other thoughts on George Mason on the matchup itself?
Well, when you go to the NCAA tournament, you get to dance. When you go to the NIT tournament, do you get to just shag? How does that work?
Shag?
Yeah, you never shagged, Mike.
What's this?
It's like a
What's a shag?
50s,
Shag
60s
dancing?
dance.
Yeah.
Like a little.
Oh.
It's like a casual waltz.
Jeb, I was trying to think of a comp, but shagged was not in my mind. I cannot think of that. So.
Jeb, I loved where you were going, and I like where you finished. That's I think it
You waltz?
originated in
I don't
North
know.
Carolina. Could be wrong there.
That's true.
Could be wrong.
No, he's right about that.
I feel like if I said anything originated in North Carolina, it's like in My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Fact
How
check me.
the
It's
dad's like
true. It did
everything
originate
started
there.
in Greek.
It was called the Carolina Shag. Okay.
It's like saying Carolina led the country in quad one wins. I mean, maybe Duke did, but not.
Well,
The state did.
Yeah,
no
the
one
state
else
did
knows.
Through Duke, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
the state did.
quad
Yeah, they did.
is North Carolina, so no one else could have won more quad one games.
Good point.
That's duh.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I
You
would
just
say-
got to win one.
I would say, it would be nice if we had somebody on the selection committee to get us in when we don't deserve it, but we do. So it's tough. Not enough lobbying to get the
I think Wake deserved it way more than North
120th
Carolina.
Ken Palm team into the tournament.
Wake
If only-
deserved it way more than North Carolina.
If only we played in the ACC, we would have gotten it.
If only. I mean, the SoCon was basically as good as the ACC.
Yeah.
And not ended up like Miami, who won single digit games. But
Also, like Northwestern didn't get in. Like,
Oh.
teams like that.
They probably didn't have the academic score to get in. Don't you have to have a certain test score to remain eligible?
Cole is.
Cole's not on here, so
I know he's not on here to defend himself.
that's
All
just
right,
5
boys.
and 7 bowl teams for bowl games.
Yeah, exactly. Any other? That's the only way they can get into a bowl. Any other comments on NIT George Mason before we get to softball and basketball or baseball?
No, just get to watch the team like Mike said at the top one more time. So enjoy 40 more minutes.
All right. Well, go Dogs. This drops on Wednesday, so it's game day today. The game is at 7 Eastern. It's on ESPN Plus. Apparently, they put 6 or 7 games across ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU.
ESPN Plus.
But Chad didn't get one of the. They're on ESPN Plus too, so at least we can. Hey, at least we're with them. But
I don't mind the plus. I don't mind it.
yeah, it's fine.
It's better than ESPNU, which like half the country doesn't get, and then you just can't watch the game.
Oh, really? I thought if you got ESPN, you got ESPNU. No.
Maybe you do. I don't know.
You can watch it on ESPN Plus regardless.
A few years ago, like I
Yes,
had
you can.
Comcast, and if they put
Just
the
put
game
it
on
up.
ESPNU, I
Yeah, it used
couldn't
to be
watch
like
it.
that. Yeah.
Maybe
could
that was like
watch
a Comcast thing. I don't know. I guess you don't have it if you have ESPN automatically. Anyway, baseball. So interestingly enough, ETSU. I don't know if they won, but we're playing Tennessee in a midweek this week, and they were winning going into the 7th, just like Samford was on the Saturday game, and they were winning like 4-3. I really hope they did not
Ooh.
win.
Bottom of the 10th,
No way.
ETSU up 7-6.
Oh, that's spicy. Okay,
Yikes.
well-
Tennessee's undefeated. I'm gonna have to turn it on right now.
The Bucks are good, top 50 in the RPI, and that is who we
Tennessee's got
have.
2 on, 2 outs.
Oh, first and second?
Yes.
First and second, 2 on,
Okay,
bottom of the
less
10th,
threatening.
0-1 pitch count.
That's tight. I don't know who I'm going for here. I kind of want the Vols because I want to get into the ETSU series with a heartbreaker for the Bucks. But at the same time, regardless, they're going to come out of here thinking they're world beaters because they took the number one team in the country to 10 innings.
Tuesday night game. Who cares?
So anyway, ETSU top 40 in the RPI, and that is who we start off conference play with. But we wanted to recap non-con for baseball and softball just to get everybody primed for the conference slate that begins this week. So for baseball, sitting there 12-8. We are playing right now against Jacksonville State, but 12-8 at the time of recording, sitting at 113 in the RPI. And for our non-conference series this year, we had Valpo at the beginning, who we swept. They were an RPI of 247. Then we got swept by Tennessee, who's the number one team in the country. Then we tied Kennesaw State, a decent squad, at 102. And then beat UT Martin 3-2, who has a RPI of 100. So pretty decent non-con before sweeping Evansville, who is at 269. So not as strong. And then from an offensive standpoint, kind of the leaders of the team, Cade Carr, returning sophomore, leads the team in hits, home runs, RBIs, absolute stud. Jeffrey Entz, transfer, is second in hits, and then Jake Saunders, freshman, third in hits. It always is amazing to see who the stud freshman for Samford's going to be, because we always have one, and sometimes we have two. Trey Higgins, the Mississippi State transfer, is also tied for home runs. And then Jeffrey Entz. He is the only player on the team with more walks than Ks. So shout out to him. And then from a pitching standpoint, so this is kind of the evolving story of the season. Coming into the year, we thought we had one of the best rotations according to coach, and we kind of do. We got Cameron Keshock and Miller Riggins, who've been the primary starters, and they've been playing well. But someone who's really turning it on lately is Evan Steckmesser, who really has just played a reliever to this point, usually pitching 2 to 3 innings. But if he can figure out how to stretch to 5 innings, we would have 3 legitimate arms. And then the other guy to watch out for from a starting perspective is Mason Blashy or Blash. Sorry, he's a true freshman. Stud. So we have 2 good arms right now. We're still looking for a consistent ace. But Steckmesser might be that guy come conference play. We'll see. Unsurprisingly, Miller and Evans are tied in Ks at 26. And then this is interesting. So Miller Riggins obviously been pitching the most. He's given up 21 hits, which is the same as Evans. But when you look at their ERA, they're drastically different because Miller has surrendered 11 more runs, 4 of them home runs, than Evans. So an interesting weakness for Miller, which we kind of knew, right? Like he gets popped occasionally, but definitely giving up the long ball more often, which is really hurting his numbers. And then Brooks Rice, the story of the offseason, like, is he going to be as good as we all thought he was? Well, to put it this way, he was not for the first part of the non-conference, but honestly, he's come in for a few innings here and there, most recently against North Alabama, and he certainly has settled down. He got rattled early, but has certainly settled down. I'm still holding out hope, whether that's, stupid or not. I still think there's something in there. We'll see. And then the overview for like a big picture of the SoCon from an RPI perspective, ETSU is number 1. As I was saying, they're 36th, which is crazy. The squad is loaded.
And they just
Mike, did they win?
Yeah, Tennessee took strike 3 on the inside corner to finish it out.
And
Yeah,
they
Grant,
just
what do you
beat the
think? Good
number
call?
1 team in the country.
It looked inside to me. Yeah, it looked inside to me. Yeah.
So they will presumably climb in the RPI by the time we play them on Friday. That's going to be an awesome series. What a tone setter. For the conference slate. UNCG is second at 97. We're sitting there at third at 113 with Wofford right on our heels at 114. Mercer is at 139. Western's 145. So that's kind of your contenders. Citadel, VMI bringing up the rear, 205 and 256 respectively. Grant, over to you for softball.
Yeah, one more thing on baseball. Cade Carr was named the SoCon Player of the Week this past week in 4 games. He had 583, 7 for 12, with 2 doubles, 2 dingers and 7 RBIs in Samford's 4 wins
Stupid.
this weekend. He leads the team and ranks second in the conference with a 418 average. He also leads the team as tied for second in RBI with 32.
Amazing.
And Brooks Rice tonight went 2 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned, 2 walks, 2 Ks against Jack State as Samford leads 4-3 in the 5th.
Not bad.
I will take it.
Not great, but for him, that's good.
Yeah, Birmingham Southern transfer Josh Learson relieved him. He has started on Sunday the last few weeks. He's pitched 2 innings, 1 hit, 6 Ks. So pretty sick, 6 Ks in
That'll
2
play.
innings. Yeah.
That'll play. Dang. Dude comes in lights out.
So
What, Jim?
what about Mason? Is it Blaish?
Yeah, the true freshman pitcher.
Yeah, he started on Sunday, pitched really well.
Yeah,
He's good.
like, why Miller Riggins more over him?
Experience.
I think so.
And he just has a more consistent arm, and he's not a freshman coming out of high school. But yeah, I mean, Mason could by the SoCon tournament, if Mason is clearly in the rotation, like if Mason comes on, right, then we really have 4 legitimate arms, and now we can kind of believe the preseason hype of wow, this rotation is phenomenal. But we still got a ways to go. ETSU is going to be a nice show me series how good we are.
Yeah, just looking at their ERAs though, like you can kind of tell that Evan, Cameron, and Mason are probably are.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Yes.
Softball.
Sits at 18-12. They play Mercer this weekend. They're playing a doubleheader Saturday, 1 on Sunday at home. Lost to Mississippi last week in their final game. Didn't have a midweek this week. Good to finally get back for SoCon play against Mercer. Just going through the non-conference like Sam did for baseball. Many invitational tournaments over the weekend. They went 2-2 in their first one in Troy in the Trojan Invitational, beating Central Michigan and Troy. Then the next one was a big weekend, undefeated, went 4-0 here at home against UAB and Indiana State. Then the next week they went over to downtown Birmingham, went 2-2 in that little tournament, beat Southern Indiana and UAB. Samford went down to Gainesville, Florida, one of the top teams of the country, top 10. Samford went 4-1 in that, beating Troy, Western Michigan, and Florida A&M. But losing to Florida, I think Florida almost threw a no-hitter in that one. Moving over to the next weekend, they went 3-2 in the North Alabama tournament, beating Detroit, La Monroe, and UNA in that one. Then also another big weekend, another SEC team played at Ole Miss and beat North Dakota State twice, went 2-2 in that one. Just some other hitting leaders to go through. Olivia Shaw leads Samford hits with 36. Katie Campbell has 32. And then Greer Bruce and Sarah Squilacci are tied of 26. Moving over to home runs, Logan Champion leads Samford with 8 homers. Then you have Olivia Shaw and Katie Campbell tied with 4 homers. RBI, Olivia obviously leading a hit. She's going to lead in RBIs. 32 RBIs for Olivia, 27 for Campbell, is also second in hits. And then Logan Champion and Greer Bruce have 20 RBI as well. Moving over to the pitching, as we knew coming into the year, they would have to replace McKenzie, who was kind of the rock last year, along with Jordan Partain. Partain is back, and she's kind of been the primary starter, along with Sarah Bond and a couple other starters. Partain, both of them actually have a sub-5 ERA and a 300 opponent batting average. So again, they've been playing some big teams early. It's good to finally settle down here into SoCon play. Both Jordan and Sarah have more strikeouts than walks, which is obviously good. 37-33 for Jordan, and then 22-17 for Sarah. So good. Again, same thing in baseball, same as softball. You got to limit the walks, and obviously that stops innings from exploding. Then another pitcher who's gotten some starts, Olivia Trout. She does have 2 wins. One of those included an actual no-hitter against Western Michigan. So just wanted to shout her out as well. So it helps when you got those 2 main starters. Jordan kind of taking the bulk of the starts and innings, but it's good to have some kind of experience, even though softball pitchers can throw as many as 130 to 200 pitches. It doesn't matter. We've seen crazy. There's some stat, I forgot what was on TV. Actually, no, that was a baseball guy. He had like somebody's dad for some team. He had like one outing where he threw like 300 pitches or something like crazy like that back in the 60s and 50s. Yeah. Super sick. Softball is kind of the same thing. Then going over SoCon. SoCon is 12th ranked conference in RPI. Samford is leading the SoCon at 76th, and then UTC is in second, UNCG, Mercer, Wofford, Western Carolina, Furman, then ETSU brings out the bottom at 258. So yeah, a great start for Samford in their first year under new head coach Megan Curry. Again, Megan, a Samford Hall of Famer, played at Samford. It's cool to see her kind of getting this kind of role after kind of being passed over for it a couple years ago due to her youth. She's cracked it at Birmingham Southern before coming over to Samford. So yeah, Samford sits 18-12 and they're 5-1 at home. So it's a really good start for kind of an older team, but still with a first-year coach. It's pretty great to see.
We got a squad. We have a legitimate softball squad. It's awesome. All right, Mike, bring it home, baby. State of the Dogs, men's and women's tennis.
Yeah, both men's and women's played last week. The men went 2-0, beating Furman and College of Charleston. They've got SoCon foe UTC up on Friday, who's currently sitting at 10-7 overall. And then women's fell both to College of Charleston and Charleston Southern this past week, 3-4 and 0-4 respectively. So they've got also SoCon foes UNCG, who's sitting at 3-9, and Western Carolina, who's sitting at 9-7 up this week, both on the road. So that wraps up tennis. And Sam, we got to talk about Bradley Franklin, the track guy.
That's right.
Was in the
That's right.
Nationals. So just update on that. He, if you guys recall from last week, was in the national championship for indoor track running the 60-meter hurdles. He ended up placing 11th in the nation, which is pretty good, but 11th in the nation.
Pretty strong
in that event out of 16 total runners that qualified. He ran a 7.63 when the winner ended up running a 7.53, I believe. Just crazy
that is a very tight margin.
I'm sorry, that was the prelims. The final was the winner ran a 7.45.
Okay,
But
still.
And Bradley was the only freshman in the field too. He missed on the final by 0.03 seconds, so he's right there.
Freshman?
Yeah, he was right there getting to the finals. Yeah, freshman.
It's cool seeing.
Guess he'll be at LSU next year.
The other, yeah, right. The other schools represented in this event were just some of them: Southern Cal, Texas Tech, Auburn, Texas A&M, Arkansas, LSU, Baylor, Florida State, Houston, and you got Samford in there. So that's awesome way to represent your school.
That's awesome. Love that. Well, guys, if you don't have anything else, NIT tonight.
Yep. He didn't. Sam, one thing, he didn't play this year. He redshirted coming over Birmingham Southern, but Brody Davis was one of the backup bigs. He ended up redshirting. He ended up entering the portal after coming over this year. He didn't play this year. He's a preferred walk-on from Birmingham Southern, so he's in the portal. So just one thing to watch for. And then once the season ends, we'll have the portal trackers up and ready to go on the website.
It is nice that, because a few of the NIT teams, Bradley had 2, now they have 1 guy in the portal. There's so much unknown when you get to the postseason. If it's not March or it's not the college football playoff, right? There's just so much unknown. So good to see that our squad is still, with the exception of Brody, all in against George Mason.
And the portal opens on Monday for everybody. So this coming Monday. So
there you go. Portal on Monday. Hopefully no one, but inevitably someone.
Yes.
There's going to be somebody.
No.
Hopefully
we're playing George Mason, Jeb. We are focused on this one game, and then we can get to crapping on everybody who leaves. Anyway, George Mason, Wednesday, tonight, game day. Go Dogs. Hopefully we win. Hopefully we're talking UTC Samford in I guess a week. But say the Bulldogs is out.